Devin Nunes is the Republican head of the Intelligence Committee in the House. He was also on Trump's transition team. Now they're conducting a so-called independent investigation of Donald Trump. Well, that's kind of uncomfortable. He seems to have a bit of a conflict of interest there. Well, if he at least carries out his job independently as he's supposed to do, perhaps he can get beyond that conflict of interest. Is he principled enough to do that? Well, we found out yesterday when he came out to the press and said this.
Today I briefed the president on the concerns that I had about incidental collection and how it relates to President-elect Trump and his transition team and the concerns that I have. And lastly, I'll say that the reports that I was able to see did not have anything to do with Russia or the Russia investigation or any tie to the Trump team. What I've read bothers me, and I think it should bother the president himself and his team because I think some of it seems to be inappropriate. But like I said, until we get all the information to the committee, it's hard to really say until we see it in its totality. This is information that was brought to me that I thought the president needed to know about incidental collection, where the president himself and others in the Trump transition team were clearly put into intelligence reports that ended up at this White House and across a whole bunch of other agencies. And I thought it was important for the president to know this.
So there are two different issues here. One is the incidental collection. There, I agree with him, it's somewhat disturbing. So let me explain. So the FISA courts allow you to track foreigners, for example, the Russian ambassador, right? And we listen in on their calls. But when they're talking to Americans, we're supposed to mask the identity of the Americans. Now, a lot of times they don't mask them or they unmask them. They're not supposed to do that, but they do that. And that apparently, if you believe Nunes, happened to some of the Trump transition team. Now remember, he was on the executive committee of the transition team, so that might affect him personally. He says it was not about the Russians, and he says that it was perfectly legal, but it's still disturbing. I agree with him that that's disturbing. We've been saying through the Bush years, the Obama years, and now the Trump years, that yeah, of course they unmask them. They tell us every time that we ask them, oh no, we don't unmask the Americans, and we never pry in on any American conversations without a court order. Yeah, except sometimes they do, just like in this case. So I'm glad that that is exposed. Now the second part of this is that, what are you doing? You're the person who's supposed to be independently investigating Trump. He just did a press conference announcing to Trump what happened inside the independent investigation of Trump. That's insane. Well, then you can't run that investigation, and you're certainly not independent. Okay, can you answer that? Well, let's see his answer to it.
Do you find it important then to brief the press and then the president before even the ranking membership?
It's just a judgment call. I mean, it was my decision. I mean, there was a lot going on yesterday, and it was a judgment call on my part. And that's at the end of the day, that's sometimes you make the right decision, sometimes you make the wrong one, but you got to stick by the decisions you make.
No, not really. If you made the wrong one, you can say, yeah, that was a bad call. And was it a bad call? Of course. Now everybody's saying, what did you do? You didn't even check with the rest of the Intelligence Committee. So now today goes to the Intelligence Committee, and according to Representative Jackie Speier, he gave a generic apology. Like, I guess if anything went wrong. Yeah, something went wrong. You didn't even tell your own committee, and you went and ran and told the guy you were supposed to be investigating. Yes, you can make a decision that was not the right call. So now, of course, Trump loves it, and because he said, oh, Obama was wiretapping him. Now, that's not what Nunes said, but he is revealing that some in the Trump campaign were incidentally listened in on. So what do you think Trump's gonna do with that? Here's what he's gonna do with it.
I somewhat do. I must tell you, I somewhat do. I very much appreciated the fact that they found what they found, but I somewhat do.
What did they find? What did they find?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, President.
Yeah. So this is wonderful political cover, even though it isn't really what Trump was saying. It's good enough political cover for him. And he's like, thank you very much, Nunes, mission accomplished. Now, others point out this is horrific, including Republicans. First, let me go to MSNBC security analyst Jeremy Bash, who worked as senior counsel for these kind of committees before. He said the job of the committee is to do oversight of the executive branch, not to bring them into their investigation or to tip them off to things they may be looking at. I've got to believe that other members of the committee are horrified at what they just witnessed. This is a chairman that's supposed to be doing impartial, bipartisan investigations of the president's inner circle, and instead, he basically goes and tells the president and his team everything he knows. Disaster. And he's not the only one saying that. John McCain said now there needs to be an independent select committee because these guys obviously aren't up to the job. Remember, John McCain is a Republican that sits on the Senate Intelligence Committee. It's the head of that committee. And he said that he no longer does the Congress have the credibility to handle this alone, and I don't say that lightly. So McCain is saying the investigation now can't be handled by Republicans in Congress because they're apparently so biased that they'll botch it like this. It needs to go to someone independent. I don't know if the Republicans will actually allow that, but that is a significant step. So if Nunes thought he was trying to help his boss, Donald Trump, that wasn't his job. Trump is not his boss. He was supposed to be investigating him, and he hasn't helped anyone, most especially Americans who actually want to get to the bottom of this. You know who created journalism you could be proud of? You did. Our audience helped us hire an investigative reporting team. Now we're going to go for a second. tytnetwork.com/go. Let's build the best reporting team in the country together.